What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you are well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some r/am I the butthole, of course. If you'd like to skip the initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below. But if you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. As I always say, and always will, it really helps out our channel. Honestly, it does, and I can't tell you the difference you make by doing these things. So thank you so much. And yesterday we did have some member updates. We had Fred Gomez with a rejoin, Annie Lucy with the upgrade, Reynolds Sargent with a rejoin, Alexandra McCann with a rejoin, and Helen Borland and Raxel1447 joined us. Thank you so much for the support and everything you do for the channel, and everyone for just taking the time out of your day to be here. It's just absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, and let's crack on with today's stories. Much love, guys. Now, our first story comes from Fitness Interview. Am I the arsehole for calling my wife a hypocrite? Me, 40 male, and my wife, 43 female, have 3 kids, 17 male, 17 female, and 12 female. The older 2 are twins. My son is gay, my wife doesn't hate him for it, she hasn't said it's wrong or threatened to kick him out, well, at least not for the gay bit, but she does act like it's an annoyance or an inconvenience. Earlier today, we, whole family except 12 female, were watching a movie that had both of the twins' favourite actors. When my daughter's favourite came on screen, she made a comment about how attractive she thought he was. Damn, he looks good in a suit. My wife said nothing. 20 minutes later, my son's favourite came on and he made a similar comment. I forgot how good he looks in this movie. However, this time my wife rolled her eyes and made a loud over-the-top sigh. If I'm being honest, I'm sick and tired of how she treats our son and wanted to call her out on her BS, so I asked her what's wrong. She danced around the topic for a few minutes before blurting out that our son didn't have to be so gay on purpose. I reminded her that our daughter did the same about 20 minutes ago, and she wasn't being too straight. I then called my wife a hypocrite and left. Almost immediately, both of the twins also left and went to their rooms. My son flashed me an apologetic smile on the way up. I know my wife doesn't hate our son, and I feel really bad for yelling at her and ruining the movie for the kids, and I could have just ignored her eye roll and moved on, but I just can't stand how she treats our son sometimes. Am I the arsehole? Absolutely not the arsehole in this situation, and that kind of behaviour needs to be called out. I mean, imagine putting yourself in the son's shoes in that situation. He would have realised what was going on at that point because she didn't have an issue with the daughter doing it at all. So absolutely that behaviour needs to be called out. And what was the comment about being gay on purpose? Like, absolute arsehole behaviour. And as I said, needs to be called out. So, Dodgers Chick says, absolutely not the arsehole. This was potentially a defining moment that could have made your son feel like he couldn't express himself to people in fear of being judged because kids notice things like this. That insecurity would have stuck with him, but now he knows you have his back and won't tolerate judgment from anyone, including your wife, and that you will protect him. You did the right thing by calling it out in an effort to shut it down. You're a good dad. And Guppy Tub says not the arsehole. While she may not actively hate your son, it does seem she has a problem with him being gay, which is a problem. If she can't accept all of him, then does she really accept him at all? One of my children is not straight, and I can't imagine treating him that way is any different than my straight kid. It just would not occur to me. And Little Valuable says not the arsehole, homophobia is not to be tolerated. Why has she threatened to kick your son out? And Opie replies, during a heated argument, he told her to fuck off. She told him if he swore at her ever again, she would kick him out. He was 14 or 15 at the time. And Moon Lettuce says, not the arsehole, your wife is a homophobe. It's not always shown by huge grand acts of hate, it's sometimes the small insidious moments that pick away at someone. You're noticing it, and I guarantee your son is definitely noticing it. He's noticing every sigh, every roll of her eyes, every comment she's making. She's not a good mother, she's a disgusting bigot who is willing to make her own son miserable. There are too many parents who don't support their kids when they go through something like this. Please continue to support your son, because his own mother has shown that she won't. I know you say it's not hatred, but it is. Now, what would you do in this situation? Imagine your partner was doing the same to one of your children, and they was like singling them out and they was doing this kind of behavior. How would you feel? How would you act? Let me know in the comments below. And our next story is from Desperate Objective. Am I the arsehole for not telling my kids I plan to pay off their student loans? So first of all, I believe that people don't spend others' money the way they would with their own. I think paying your own things helps to understand their worth and cost. I have 2 adult children, Susan 26 female and Emily 25 female, with my husband. We do okay for ourselves, but don't have a ton of disposable income. We told our kids in high school that we do not have the money to pay for their college. We can help with signing loans and they can live with us rent free as long as they're in some type of school. But we wouldn't be able to give them money directly. We talked about how whatever they do, they need to make sure it's worth the cost to them, either because they will make good money when they graduate or because it's their passion. Susan tried to keep her student debt as low as possible by going to community college and living at home for 2 years before transferring to school she really wanted, saying that it wasn't worth going into more debt when she can accomplish the same thing for less money. Emily was less concerned and went to the school she wanted from the start and claimed it was worth it for the full college experience. Susan graduated with 20k in student debt. Emily graduated with 60k. Now that both kids are done with school and are living on their own, me and my husband decided to sell our current house and get a smaller one. There was enough profit to fully pay off both girls' student loans and have some left over for renovations and retirement savings. I had always planned to do this, but because I wanted the kids to at least plan to pay for their own school, and because you never know what can happen in life, I did not tell my kids about the plan. Now Susan is incredibly mad. She said if I had known I was going to pay off their loans, she would have just gone to the school she wanted from the beginning. I feel like it wasn't worth 60k of her money. Why is it suddenly worth 60k of mine? Susan thinks I should split the money and they each get 40k instead. But I wanted them to be able to live without this debt hanging over them, not leave one daughter with debt and the other with 20k in disposable income. Susan has complained to my family and they are split, some saying I am punishing Susan for being smart with her money, while others feel Susan is being unreasonable and should be happy on paying off the loans. And we're going to start straight away with me light on this one, saying you're the arsehole, give both the same amount please. One received better education and lived a joyful life, and you are trying to punish the other for being responsible. Pay 40 for one, the 20 for the other, and then give her 20 additionally. It would be really unfair not to, and your kid might be mad forever. And Hontsy says, you're the arsehole, you planned to pay off their debt and never told them. Susan didn't choose cheaper option because her education wasn't worth 60k, she chose it because she didn't want a life of debt. Her being angry is justified and she missed a lot of average college experience in order to avoid debt. To make the statement that Susan pretty much didn't value her education as much is BS. The fact that Emily spent more money for a more traditional college has nothing to do with the value of her education. This is also a large sum difference, being that you are giving Emily 40k more value when she already got an education without the sacrifices Susan had to make. And Pear-Shaped 34 says, you're the arsehole, I'm with Susan. The fair thing to do would be to give them the same amount of the house regardless of the size of their debt. You were giving one daughter 3 times more than the other because she chose to run up more debt. Of course Susan doesn't see that as fair because it's not. To be clear here, what you're doing is very generous, but you should treat your kids equally. Obviously. The fact that you don't seem to think anything is wrong with giving one daughter 3 times more than the other makes me suspect that they have not grown up in fair and equal household, so I suspect her hurt probably runs deeper than just this money. And Vini Vidi Vici says, just give them 20k each and make it fair, put the rest into retirement. These days that's not a stupid move. Now, I turn this one to you guys. What would you do in this situation? Do you think it's fair to split the money equally, or do you think, OP's being generous enough? Let me know in the comments below. And our next story comes from Fativas. Am I the arsehole for refusing to attend my brother's funeral? Long-time lurker, so some background. I, 23 female, had an older brother, Lance. He was 8 years older than me, and he absolutely despised me. Ever since the day I was born, he hated my guts and set out to make me as miserable as possible. Reason being was he hated having a sibling, especially a sister, and was happy being an only child. Say that he was a bully is a major understatement. Our parents initially ignored it, as they thought it was just normal sibling rivalry. But when I was 5, they finally locked onto his behaviour and tried their very best to correct it. Nothing worked though, he only got worse and worse and meaner and meaner. One incident stands out in my mind. I was 6. He locked me out of the house when there was a tornado warning. Out of all the things he's done to me, that was the worst, because there actually was a tornado on the ground and it almost hit our neighborhood. When I was 10, he graduated high school and moved out. The last thing he said to me before he left was that I was worthless and would amount to nothing. Thankfully, that was the end of his days bullying me. In the 13 years that have passed since Lance moved out, we've only seen each other on a couple of occasions, one of which being his wedding, and he ignored me on all of them. Didn't even acknowledge my presence. He has 2 sons who I don't even know or were even introduced to. He told me that I would never amount to anything and was worthless. Well, I'm in nursing school, hoping to fulfill my dream of becoming a nurse, and I have a wonderful, doting boyfriend. Well, 2 weeks ago I got a call from my mum. Lance was coming home from work and he lost control of his car and he wrapped it around a streetlight. By the time the ambulance got there, he was already gone. I only felt heartbroken for my parents because you should never have to bury your child, but I felt nothing towards him. I made it clear to my parents that I was not going to Lance's funeral, not after his years of abuse. They were not happy. They begged me to go, saying that I needed to be the bigger person. He's dead and can't hurt me anymore. I need to be there for them, and I don't know the pain of losing a child. I understood how they felt, but he never once apologized for all of his years of abuse, not one word of remorse or regret. They tried insisting that he was a changed person, but I stood my ground and did not go. My abuser did not deserve my grief or my presence. If he had apologized, then I might have attended, but he didn't. My parents were absolutely furious that I didn't show up and announced that they would never speak to me again, and they haven't since. My boyfriend stands by my decision, but I've been getting nothing but backlash from my other family members, saying I should have just swallowed my pride and went to Lance's funeral. So, am I the arsehole? As we say time and time again on these sorts of situations, you know, people that abuse you, family members, air quotes, family members that abuse you are not real family. That guy didn't sound like real family. He didn't treat you that way all your life, and he just sounded like he abused you all the way through. You owe that guy nothing. I wouldn't want to be there either, and it's kind of shocking for your parents to act in this way as well, for them to cut out another child out of their lives. Do they really want to lose 2 children at once here? The guy gave you no reason to love him, no reason to support him, and you know, I totally understand you not wanting to be there, even if it's to support your mum and dad. You don't want to be there for this guy. And I can only imagine that your parents were enabling this behavior all these years, or was it all behind closed doors? Surely they must have seen some of this abuse for them to enable it as well. Maybe you are best off just out of their lives, but I don't know that side of the story too much. But absolutely not the arsehole in this situation, and everything Yellow says, not the arsehole. He is gone now. You never owed him anything. Not attending his funeral has changed your relationship with your parents. He was their son, but he wasn't your brother, and I hope that someday they can understand why you chose not to attend. This is the hill you chose to die on, so be prepared to not speak with your parents for some time. And Stab Me Some More says, not the arsehole. It was nearly a no one's an arsehole here, but your parents choosing to lose both children over this tipped the scale. Funerals are for the living. Your parents needing support there isn't a surprise. They're grieving in a way that isn't comprehensible to those that never experienced such a loss. You though have zero obligation to go to your abuser's funeral. In time, I hope your parents come back around and they process their grief. And Y says, are they really willing to lose you too over this? They're not the arsehole because they obviously don't care a bit about you. And Alert Potato says, not the arsehole. I get that it must be incredibly difficult to lose a child, and that is probably complicated when your surviving child is not mourning their sibling's death. But they are arseholes here, even in grief for pulling the but they totally stopped being an arsehole before they died and or but family bullshit. Your brother actively and intentionally put your life at risk when you were 6, and he at 14 was old enough to understand how dangerously stupid he was being. He's a changed person, can never erase something that awful. If he were truly a better person, he'd have come to you and apologized for being a long life arsehole to you. No one has any obligation to attend the funeral of someone who tried to get them killed, blood or not. I think it would have been exceedingly kind of you to support your parents on the day of the funeral, but not at the expense of your own mental health. And I'm not sure you could have, as they had likely lashed out at you for not being appropriately sad. Now, I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys think of this situation? Let me know in the comments below. And our next story comes from Friendly Owl. Am I the arsehole for not paying for my cousin's wedding despite ruining it by having a mental health crisis? My favourite cousin was supposed to get married last year but postponed this year with only close family and friends invited, a total of 30 people. I was excited to go as I live alone and my parents died when I was in college, so I tried to make family a priority when I can. At the wedding, my aunts kept picking at me for being single, as family does when you get to your mid-20s with no partner, and something in my brain apparently broke. I don't fully understand what happened, but I started crying, just inconsolable weeping. I remember slumping to the ground crying, but after that, it's like my brain just shut off. I don't remember saying anything, but according to my relatives and the hospital, I kept rocking and crying. The next thing I remember, I was in hospital feeling very calm. They kept me overnight but released me saying it was just a panic attack. My cousin's wedding did not go well because of, well, that happening. In a wedding with 30 people, one person having a not minor mental health crisis is very hard to cover up or hide, and it derailed the events. She and her new husband are now raging that I ruined their wedding and now owe them the cost of the wedding. I said no. I didn't intentionally ruin their wedding. I had a terrifying mental health incident that I am seeking care for. I've never had anything like that happen before. I get nervous sometimes, but it's never been like that. I don't even like crying in front of people. I'm trying to seek therapy, but the closest appointment I can get is 6 months from now. Also, I don't have the money to pay for the entire wedding. Yes, I have savings, but I have to save that for the possibility of something happening in my own life because I'm the only person I really have. Obviously, the breakdown that happened at her wedding was over-emotional way of putting it, but the truth is that I'm unlikely to ever find someone. I'm 25 years old, I have to take time to get my mental health in check, and even if I was 100% fine, there was no way for me to meet anyone now anyway. I only have myself. Everyone in my family has partners and a family. I'm completely alone. I mean, I even had to Uber home from the hospital because I don't have parents anymore as they passed 3 years ago, and you don't get closer to your cousins by going crazy around them. They're now threatening me with being cut out of the family. I told them they were only proving my point and have to put everyone on mute since. Am I the arsehole? And we're going to start off with Frosky Deck saying, and quotes, "The truth is that I'm unlikely to ever find someone. I'm 25 years old. I have to take the time to get my mental health in check. And even if I was 100% fine, there's no way for me to meet anyone now anyway. I only have myself. Everyone in my family has partners and a family. I'm completely alone." And then says, "Boy howdy, this is proof that you need help with your mental health, and soon. This kind of thinking is a classic sign of depression and of coping mechanisms that are not helping you. It's also not true as it happens, but you're not going to start believing that until you get help. You're not the arsehole, you should not pay for the wedding, and you need qualified mental help. You should also consider whether or not staying in touch with your family is at all beneficial to you. And until you can get to the appointment, see if Mood Gym can help you. It's a cognitive behavior therapy program that is anonymous and wholly online. And there is a link, moodgym.com.au, for anyone interested." And RB1327 says, "Everyone sucks here. You don't owe the cost of the wedding. That's ridiculous. If a guest had a heart attack at the wedding, I doubt they would ask them for money. Your complete breakdown did ruin their day though." Edited to add, "If you didn't want your mental health remarked on, then the post should have read, 'Am I the arsehole for not paying for my cousin's wedding when I had a medical emergency during the event?' However, friends and family lose their sympathy quickly when an ill person or addict will not get help. The way you describe the wedding event suggests that you need professional help with this ASAP. Already needed it prior to this really. You say that you are seeking care, but there are many therapy options even in COVID, and your family may be reaching their breaking point supporting you. Leave them aside for the moment and focus on getting yourself the help you need." And R-Bar says, "Not the arsehole, your family sounds like bullies. Your aunts were dreadful to trigger that response, and your cousin is dreadful for making you feel guilty about something terrible that happened to you. You say your family is important because you don't have your parents, but these people don't behave like they deserve to have you in their life." And Dance of the Cucumber says, "Okay, I'm going to go with a very gentle everyone sucks here. Your aunt sucks for picking on you for being single. At 25, you are not an old crone. You absolutely have time to find someone. Not that there's an age limit on love. My great-grandpa got remarried at 86. Also, it's rude as fuck to make fun of people for their relationship status at any age. Your cousin sucks for expecting you to reimburse the whole wedding. That is ridiculous. Everyone that isn't you sucks for not removing you from the situation. You should have been escorted from the room to get some space and allow the rest of the guests and the bride and groom to continue enjoying themselves. You suck for 2 things. Your attitude on love. Seriously, at 25, you are not destined to always be alone. Get a grip. And for not leaving the space when you started crying. I have many panic attacks and I've been able to leave the space before breaking down. Obviously, everyone's mental health is different, but once it was clear you were getting very upset, you should have excused yourself. Again, this is a gentle everyone sucks here because panic attacks can catch you off guard, especially if this was your first. And Nyank says, not the arsehole for not paying, not the arsehole for an unavoidable crisis, but your whining about being single makes me think you aren't actually being apologetic to them and are taking a woe is me attitude. You did ruin their wedding and your breakdown is what everyone is going to remember about it. The least you could do is not make the aftermath about you too. Now, I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys think of this situation? Let me know in the comments below. Now, once again, guys, thank you for your support just recently and, you know, asking about my dad and everything you're doing for me. It's been absolutely amazing. It's been a rough weekend. And when I come on here and I read your loving comments and your supportive comments, it's just absolutely amazing. Not that I expect them at all, but you know, it's like when you come on and you know that you're in someone's thoughts and you think about my dad as well. It's just it's a great feeling. But honestly, I don't expect it either. I'm not looking for sympathy, like someone said before. I'm definitely not looking for sympathy. I'll give you a full update in a future post, but for now, thank you so much for your support, the time, the love, and everything. And I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love.